Drew, the fourth age is upon us. This is Age of Empires 4. Quite some time ago, we took a look at Age of Empires 3, and I had a good time with that one. I think you were the same, but jumping into the new one, the new edition, what was your first impression of this one?
Scott, like, you and I are big fans of Age. Even Nate, you want to toss Nate in there as well. Like, we grew up on this whole genre. We grew up on this game. So to get into the Age 4, you kind of hope to see what will go next and what's coming forward and what keeps us invested in the franchise. We recently, like you said, right? We recently went back to Age of 3 remastered there, and we had a great time. And then you get into 4, and dude, I gotta be honest, it's not really what I was looking for. I was looking for some more advancements moving forward. Not really there like I was hoping for. I wanted the campaign to be more engaging, and I kind of fell asleep within the campaign because it's really slow. If you are a history nut, I think you're gonna love it. For me, not that big into the world of the history side of things, it was a little slow and tiring to kind of get into. But then when you get into the actual game, dude, all I wanted to do was build my forces and kind of, gather resources and go out and battle. And that mechanic is still there. That is like a staple within this whole genre and with Age of Empires. And I think everything looks great. It runs well, but there's just certain aspects I want, like, when you zoom in, I want to zoom in more. I want to almost like third person perspective, right? Like, bring me right down. I want to see my troops. I want to see my townspeople and what do they look like. Everything looks great, but you're stuck on this one forced perspective. Still can't turn a building. It blows my mind that I cannot flip a building.
Yeah.
We play so many city builders, Scott, that you just, you want to turn something, you just flip it, right? I like to move my barracks. Nope, it's stuck stationary in one perspective, and that's it. Luckily, though, I can at least change my camera angle.
Yeah.
But it's just, for me, I want more. I want somebody to step up and really change this whole genre, flip it on its head a little bit, because it seems a little stagnant and a little stale going forward. And I don't know if that's enough to keep those who want to be in this genre involved and keep them going. But maybe if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of scenario. But for me, I was hoping for a little bit more. Scott, what about you?
They're onto something that's steady, it sells well, and they know kind of what they're about. But there are some changes with this edition, and you've mentioned the history. It is definitely very focused on the history here. We saw a little bit of that with videos before getting a hold of it, but this one kind of really does follow some historical events. The battle, Normandy versus the Saxons, that's where you begin the game, and that's cool, especially if you're kind of from that area. You might think it's really, really cool, but if you're just trying to get into that RTS, kind of smashing two armies together, it gets in the way a little bit. There is a lot of changes between this game and 3 that I see, and I think they're quite positive. The different menu systems of this one make a little bit more sense. The buildings are kind of grouped together by age, and that kind of makes sense. There's differences between the races, which I thought were really cool. I say races because I'm thinking Warcraft, but the different nations, really. And they have special units, special buildings, and just different ways of their economy functioning in this one. Where I'm coming hot off the heels of 3, I've played a lot of that recently. The differences between the different factions were not very profound. But in this one, it really is quite different. So I like that. There's a lot more to learn in that way.
Absolutely. Each faction has their own set of perks, right? I think that's the biggest thing too, because there's a lot of depth within the game, right? Like, there's the auto war mode, there's a campaign, and there's a skirmish, and then there's multiplayer. So you have different modes to get you involved, and maybe you can find one that really clicks with you, and that's what you kind of stay, maybe, right? Like, or if you want to branch out, you do have a couple different options. But you and I went online. I think that's really where the game stands out for me, is the ability to play with my friends or against my friends. And that's the most fun. And then getting back to each faction has its own perks. So if you're able to know which faction you like, what perk you want to move forward with, that will help. One faction will have It starts you with all the townspeople you can possibly need, right? Or the other ones will get you a burst in gold and things along that line, where you're able to kind of get your economy up and running quicker. So there's different ones to kind of strategize for, and I think that's the biggest point is strategy within the game, Scott. Knowing what to do first, what to do second, and kind of line up your goals, especially in the multiplayer side of it, can be a real blast when you're getting into the depths and weeds of Age 4.
Well, you also made me think of something too. The differences between unit types and the way they combat is much more emphasized in this game. If you have cavalry, they run into spearmen. Cavalry loses. That's not a good fight. And they have kind of accentuated that so it's more necessary to know what enemies are fighting which. And that was something that just kind of was lacking in the last title. You just make a horde and send it in and it's probably good.
Sure.
But there's a lot more thinking to this one. And I noticed visually, of course it is updated. It's much higher resolution. All the animation, all the sprites look a lot better. And specifically what caught me was the archers. I like to make a huge amount of archers, and their arrows seem to block out the sun. It was really cool that way.
Well, Scott, jumping back into the world of Age of Empires and being the 4th edition, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. The campaign didn't really strike a chord with me either. It's a little dull and lackluster for those who aren't into the whole historical side of things. But the gameplay is a ton of fun. Hooking up with your friends is an absolute blast, and it has me there with a 7. How about you?
Yeah, there's a balanced response to this game, I think. It's got its character, core, combat, and strategizing. That's been dialed up just a little bit, but it comes with the addition of a lot of history, and I know that's going to push a lot of people away. I really enjoy this edition of the game, and I'm looking forward to getting into a lot more online combat. I'm with a 7.5, just a little above you.
Nice.
An excellent sequel in the beloved series. Updates in combat offer depth of strategy, and it's packed with relevant history and educational video.
The Normans celebrated victory over the English king, but William's quest to rule England was just beginning.